What's up, everybody? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rye report. And actually, this one's important because a ban list happened, and
It's
on
true.
Twitch in that community, we implement the ban list immediately.
That's
So
right.
we're starting to get results of what decks are going to look like going into the new meta. So, Rye, take it away.
We of course, because we're so early into the week, we haven't solidified a meta yet. It's very liquidy.
Oh God.
I'm talking about the water deck.
Ah, it just kept getting worse with each one.
Yeah, so the water deck. I think -1 talked about it in one of his videos, where he talked about if they don't nerf the water deck, it's actually going to come back potentially as like the best deck. And I am kind of agreeing with him right now. We had 2 tournaments as of the making of this video, about to go into our 3rd one in a couple hours, and water won back to back. And in the second tournament, which had way more representation of water, over 60% of them, almost 70% of them topped, and like 3 were in the top 4. And Blue Eyes didn't make it past top 16. Harpies didn't make it past top 8. And like Waters earned like 12 points on the power rankings in a single day and all this stuff.
Now we're
So
talking about water deck, not the fish deck, right?
not the fish deck, Territory of the Sharks, water deck, which is basically Necro Valley, TTH, bunch of back row, and Abyss Dweller lockdown.
That's what's on the screen right now. This is the tournament from yesterday. It's not the finals, but we are watching a water deck mirror. So
Yeah.
it's a semifinal match right now.
There you go. So we had a mirror in the top 4 and then a mirror in the finals. And obviously, you should never take one tournament's results and go, oh my God, this is the meta, right? But we now have back-to-back tournament results, good conversion rate, and we still have plenty of tournaments for the remainder of the week to go with as well. So there's a lot going on. So we'll definitely know by the end of the week, but that is what things seem to be shaping up to as of right now.
So question here, water deck is kind of a back row deck, as you know. Are we shifting, you think, into a back row meta? Because we're coming out of one that's it's kind of decks weren't playing as much back row, but I think we're gonna be seeing it a lot now, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a very interesting meta that develops, because if you remember what happened when the water deck first rose, right, is when we started what we got to be known was the Turbo Blue Eyes build, right? You drop your Spirit Dragon and you drop all these cards and you focus on just adding Blue Eyes as soon as possible and just spamming them on the board. And that is, funny enough, where Melody would be super important for a build like that. So, maybe Waters don't remain the best deck. Maybe we end up seeing a new Turbo Blue Eyes that focuses around Melody and not Azure Eyes, for example, and maybe goes to the side deck or something like that. That's kind of where the unknown stems from. And obviously, if that happens, back row is just going to be way, way, way better. And of course, back row is already good against decks like Harpy Ladies, which has high representation right now, even though the conversion rate is kind of poor. Just because people are playing it, testing it, you're going to do well in tournaments playing back row. So we're still definitely waiting for the meta to settle. And of course, the meta won't even get a chance to settle with the new box coming out on the 30th. That seems to be what everyone is thinking. I don't know if Konami has officially announced it yet, but whenever Random Blocks tells me a box is coming, he gets it right. So I believe him at this point.
Now, Harpies going into this meta, they might be facing some problems, right? Because they don't run inherently a lot of back row removal. A lot of people are going to say, what about Harpies Hunting Ground? I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, Harpy's Hunting Ground is an interesting one. Harpy's Hunting Ground is good when you combo it with like something like Swallow's Nest to protect your initial summon. Harpies is just a weaker Noble Knight, which is just a weaker Karakuri. There's always one deck in the metagame where it's like summon 1. If it gets disrupted, I lose. If it doesn't, I win. And Harpies is just the newest, weakest version of that we've had. You just can't have like a weak board versus them. Like if you go first and you have a weak board, you probably lose. You know what I mean? They'll just go in and OTK you.
Right.
So that unfortunately will continue to lose to heavy back row decks if they go first. And I think that's kind of, the issues that they have. They could play things like Forbidden Lance. They could play things like Harpy's Hunting Ground. But it does feel like, it's definitely one of the weaker meta decks that we're going to have as the meta evolves. But I have been seeing some interesting things with the deck as well, like for the Hysteric Party, the trap card. I've seen people play that, and it's pretty funny. That one got top 4. I think actually went all the way to the finals, that
Yeah,
build.
yeah.
So we'll see if that has any value. The Neos build, no one's been playing the Neos build, so we'll see if that maybe comes back for some sticking power. It's still like got a lot of optimization to the new box as well. I don't think they're getting any brand new cards in the new box, but sometimes a lot of times in this game, it's not so much individual decks beating each other. It's just decks keeping certain decks out. So for example, when Dark Lord the Mock Bike was a thing, that was just enough of a threat to keep decks away from the metagame, so you didn't have to play around Thunder Dragon anymore. So that's kind of where they're at right now, and we're kind of holding for the new box. That's pretty much what we're waiting for, because we can talk about what the meta looks like right now, and the meta right now is basically before Dark Lords, when Water was like the best deck, but the only difference is instead of playing like the Desperados and the Noble Knights, you have Harpy instead.
Right.
So
Harpy's going forward, though, I think will continue to at least be a contender, right?
It's a contender. It's definitely going to be a meta deck. It's not a bad deck. It's definitely going to be a meta deck. If I had to make a hot take rough estimate, I'd say it's probably going to be like a tier 2 deck.
Okay. Any other big surprises though? Because would we see get hit on the ban list that we might see in tournaments? Cyber Dragons, maybe. What else?
Yeah, Cyber
Evil
Dragon's
Eye. Evil Eye.
Rough. Evil Eye. Oh no, Evil Eye is so dead.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Have we
about
seen
Evil Eye.
either of these in the tournaments?
We have, and they've topped. They have topped, but it feels like Cyber Dragon, whenever they top, they're just opening very, very well. Which is, I mean, that's what they nerfed. They just nerfed their cybernetic fusion support. So you have to, you can't. The chances of you opening up your core and your fusion support and your overflow is just so low, right? Because you don't play multiple copies anymore. And then Evil Eye. Evil Eye is interesting because I really feel like Evil Eye, I want to say 40% of their wins was Evil Eye winning, and then 60% was Titan Showdown cheesing their opponent.
Right.
That's really what it felt like.
That was their win con. Yeah.
Yeah. So losing that was, I'm not going to lie to you, a pretty huge blow. Obviously, they still do well against, anti-meta decks as in terms of Blue Eyes White Dragon. But if Water becomes the go-to tier 1 deck, which is kind of what is the estimate right now, I just don't see Evil Eye really, being that contender anymore, especially the deck that main decks Necro Valley. They don't care about their graveyard.
Well, and Evil Eye, they're very much a go first deck, right? Because if they go second, you disrupt them very easily.
And it's really hard now because they don't have Storm anymore to go second. Before they just play Storm, and their cards work from the graveyard in terms of like adding other equip spells and adding monsters and stuff. And they can't really guarantee that anymore. They only play one copy, and it's so important that they still play that one copy, because if they get it, they have so much higher chance of winning. So there is that. We could also talk about Automats.
Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't seen anything from them, right? We just don't know yet.
They topped yesterday. So right now the problem with Automats is they have changed the skill totally, where before it was once per duel, now it's twice per duel. So we can emulate the first half, which is, you return 1, add 1. So basically we make people return 2, but you have to re-add 1 that you return to emulate that. The problem is we can't emulate the twice per duel. We have to stick to the once per duel.
So people just have to eat it, right? They just have to accept.
They just have to eat it. If you want to play Automats, that's how you have to play them. So we're playing a more nerfed version right now that's going to receive a buff once it's officially in the game. That's a good way to look at it. You're nerfed and then buffed again.
Right. But that being said, what are we seeing? There's a limit 2 in this deck now. What are we seeing?
Yeah, so the ones at top dropped their sister. They dropped sister to play Trunade, which is crazy to me because everyone would argue with me whenever I talk about Automats in the YouTube comments, in the Twitch comments. Right, we don't need Trunade to win. We can win without Trunade. Well, then why did you give up your searcher? What are your the way you get into your rank sixes
Right.
to play Trunade? Then what is
We're just
this?
gonna switch our extra deck, right? Is that what they're doing, or are they still going into the same plays? What are they doing?
So right now the ones that we have seen have changed their extra deck into more rank 4 spam.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think that's the way to go, if I'm being honest. I think ultimately they're going to have to bring Sister back into the mix, because it's just not working. It's just not working. They're making like Roach and then like losing in their next turn. Obviously with
Oh,
the
okay.
skill change, it's going to be a little bit better because they can make their turn one whatever Roach or Patriarch or whatever they want, and then follow up turn they can go and get Gaga head and try to get some follow up, right? So it's going to be a little bit better, that game plan. But I think locking yourself out of Bowser M7, these cards were so critical to winning. I think it's going to be more like in the future, it's going to be Sister in the main, Trunade in the side, and then you'd only Trunade against, really, really awful back row decks like the water deck,
Right.
you know?
Because Hey Trunade is a lot of their win con.
Hey Trunade is so important
Yeah.
to because they really cannot deal with disruption that well. I mean, they could before, right? When they had full power on play, because they could add things, like the Sister and then got the Gaga Wind and all that kind of stuff, right? So then you could play through disruption. But now that you can only do it once, just one card and not two, it's going to be harder for them to have like a good hand to open up with. Um, Even though you can do it times, you still have to wait a turn to get your second card. So I don't know. I think Trinade's super important, but I also think so is Sister, to get into their rank sixes. That's how you get into your rank sixes. So I think they're still trying to just figure themselves out. The ones that we saw top yesterday pretty much died in top 32, and all the games that they were in just felt like a huge struggle until they top decked Trunade. So I'm not convinced that this is the build quite yet.
All right. So basically, what comes down to, we're seeing some changes, but we're still not sure, just because we've only seen a couple of tournaments, and there's a new box coming out, so that we're still up in the air about everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Good talk.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope
we'll
it's
probably
some
do this
insights. Yep.
again once in a week. I'm sure this everything I just said will be totally irrelevant,
Yep.
and it's
Exactly.
gonna be brand new, or either that or Blue Eyes is the best deck. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll find out. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. I always love this time in any meta, because this is where the rogue decks sneak in too. So
Yeah.
this is always fun to watch. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to get in our Discord, because it's free. The tournaments are free, and the new player help is free. We're gonna get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Rye.
You'll send your best deck after support.
All right, we'll see you next time.